That's the interview. That's all we do.
Thanks, bye.
You were great. Thanks, Beth. Yeah, thank you so much. For starters, if you just want to give maybe like a brief introduction to you and your work.
I'm an artist, and I write, I work in performance, music, drawings and sculptures when it seems necessary or fitting. And yeah, that's my practice. I'm an aspiring TV host.
Oh, cool.
I want to audition for MasterChef in 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And I'm here for the planet.
Nice. Wow, those are all great things. The MasterChef one specifically, great goal. Do you feel like the different types of mediums you use influence or inform each other, especially now that you've kind of moved through this trajectory of using, like starting with painting and then sort of like moving on and now getting to where you're at?
I've always seen like whatever medium I'm working in as sort of secondary to what I'm trying to say, and I just find that if there's like certain like ideas I want to address about language or politics or presentation or the language of media and the language of like business, those are all things that happen in a kind of social setting. So like the importance of what I want to say and what I want to do sort of overrides any like, you know, feeling or like romanticization that I might have about any given medium.
I know you have a clowning education, which I think is awesome. And I read or I heard you speak somewhere about how clowning has, like schooling in clowning has taught you a little bit about like how to connect with people emotionally and empathetically, and that's a tool that you bring into performances. And I hadn't really thought of it as an opportunity of like being really like connected to somebody and feeling very like seen and heard by them, which is I think super interesting. If you could like talk about that.
My experience with clowning has been through these like classes and workshops. These classes have just been like amazing. Like learning how to have eye contact with many people at once creates a totally different environment. Just being honest, being comfortable in my body, those have come from clowning. And then the humor part, I feel myself like slowly being able to work that in, because the humor of clown is very, it's very difficult because it's very simple and childlike, and it's really hard to get into a totally silly, like when you're 8 years old and you're just like with your friends, like running around the house and like just, you know, making stuff up and like totally on your impulses. So that's like the heart of clown. And so that's something that I'm working on and like continue to work on.
I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about comedy and humor as an element within your practice.
I like to be funny.
Yeah.
And I like, and I try to be funny. Yeah. It also has to do with connection. It's very important to me that people who come to see my work know that I like care that they are looking at my work or that experiencing it. Yeah. Like I care a lot about things in general. But yeah, it's a special place. Yeah. The place of performance. I think humor kind of honors that, you know, it honors the investment that people are making. Yeah. And spending time.
I have like video and performance work sometimes where I'm often kind of like, I'm being myself, but I'm kind of like performing a version of myself. And I think of it as sort of a way of like disassociating myself in that performance from myself, like in like other spaces that I walk through life. Do you also have that sort of space?
I've started to think a lot about YouTubers and like the format of YouTubing and people making blogs or any kind of like edited version of the self, specifically in like a time format. And if you just look at it overall as like a human race or as a like species, what's happening, it's very interesting. It's like as a species, we're all becoming conscious of ourselves and are able to edit ourselves. So now I tend to think of that more like in the macro sense, more so than like the micro instance of like self, looking at self, but rather like, well, what does it mean to be just another human being who is using technology to, using a man-made technology to understand something about being human.
I read a quote by you once speaking about how an older artist was giving you advice to be sort of hesitant and wary about how you display your body as a black woman in your work, so as not to reinforce stereotypes, and how you like absorbed it as like helpful advice but also not really helpful, and not necessarily like you want to be in charge of how you kind of like portray yourself. And I thought about how sometimes it's difficult to like be a pioneer of the way we want to make our own work, and then absorb like advice and feedback that can be helpful and also sometimes not, and know when to kind of like take it and then kind of also not, and just be like, I appreciate that, but I'm kind of going to move in this way that I feel. And I wondered if you could speak about that.
Yeah, I think that she was really looking out for me, and I'm sure has a perspective that I also won't fully understand until I'm older and like looking out for younger artists. But I do feel very strongly that it's wrong to censor or silence myself in any way as a black woman that has that is a part of like being conditioned into silencing myself because I'm a black woman. Like, as a kid, I was always told, like, you talk too much, you think too much, like, you're just kind of, like, too much. I was told that by, like, a lot of, like, teachers. I also had a lot of good teachers. But I, like, never wanted to be what somebody thinks I shouldn't be because it's too much. You know what I mean? Like, the world is too much. Everything's too much. It feels like very dishonest for me to like be less than or to censor myself. So yeah, I think that's like one of the major mechanisms of oppression, just like general ass oppression, is like, don't be all that you are. And actually, that's one way in which clown has been like enormously freeing to me. Particularly with Christopher Bays, who's one of the clown teachers I've studied with, is he always talks about being your undiminished self, and that the world wants you to be diminished, because then it makes it easier for everybody else.
I mean, it feels like a lot of your video work too is like really an expression of like all these different sides. Like you said, how like maybe sometimes I want to be in a home shopping network. Like maybe I want to do Top Chef. Like it feels like you really let yourself kind of like be every version of yourself that you potentially could embody, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this world is literally insane. Like everything about being a live human being is crazy. Like the great things and the terrible things.
Yeah.
So I just feel like the more that one can express like the fullness of life, then the more like awake that everybody becomes. And like the sooner we can like do some cooler shit besides like what's going on right now.
Yeah. I mean, artwork in general is sort of like an invitation, and just be like, what if you move through the world this way? And like, what if you allowed yourself an opportunity? And I feel like your work especially really kind of like opens up that tunnel and just been like, there's a lot of stuff that we could do together and be, let's like all feel it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it could be like party fun, smart, relaxed, chill, engineering, but like in a constructive way. It could just be a different planet.
This is all of
I know this one's coming.
One?
Yeah, I know this one's coming.
So, Marry, Fuck, Kill is a game we do at the end of each interview. And so we have 3 artists for you. Kathy Aker, Vito Acconci,
Yeah.
Adrian Piper.
Marry Adrian with a subtext, like, I guess we need to talk a little bit about the piece that she did where she denounced being black, because I have like a very cursory memory of it. And maybe I'd be like, oh, I feel that, but maybe I'd be like, wait, girl. So marry, so we'd have time to talk about
so
that.
You can like work it out.
Yeah, we work it out,
sense.
partnership.
Yeah.
And then I guess at the Acker, fuck,
Yeah.
for like fun night.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And then kill Vito Acconci.
Yeah.
I
think that's right.
yeah, I think it's fine, but also, yeah, I wouldn't really kill him.